Well, good morning, guys. It's Pastor Andy. We're still doing our devotions in the book of Matthew, and we're looking today in chapter 2, just one verse, verse 19. This verse doesn't look like there's a lot there at first, but as I explain it to you, you're going to see something really interesting in this verse. Matthew 2:19, here it is. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt. "Get up," the angel said. "Take the child and his mother back to the land of Israel, because those who were trying to kill the child are dead." Here in these two verses, 19 and 20 of Matthew 2, we see Herod died. Okay, now, what's so important about that? Well, remember, this is the guy who tried to kill Jesus. This is the guy who had a temper problem. This is a guy, the Herod the Great, as he was known, just came after God's people. I mean, he did not want the Messiah to be born. This is a challenge to him. And it just says, when Herod died. I think that's amazing, because if you start to look up Herod's death, Herod the Great, there's not a lot about it in God's Word. All we see is that he died. But when you look at Jewish historian Josephus, who I have his books and have read him extensively, here's what Josephus says about the disease that Herod died from. Josephus: "It was a horrible disease, marked by a fever, ulcerated entrails, foul discharges, convulsions, stench, etc." That doesn't sound like a pleasant way to go. I mean, fever, ulcerated entrails, foul discharges. I know some people who that could fit anyways there. That's another story. Convulsions, stench, all these things from this disease that God hit this man Herod with. When I read that, I was like, man, I can just see God in heaven saying, okay, come at my kid and see what happens to you. Just like any parent, if somebody came at my kids, they'd have to deal with me, and it would not be pretty. I'll go Old Testament on them. But here God says, you mess with my kid, and I'm going to deal with you. And people are going to come at us, and we are God's kids. People are going to come at us today. They're going to come hard. They're going to try to hurt us. They're going to try to destroy our testimony. They're going to try to tear us down. Most of the time it's because of jealousy, and they don't like what we're doing, and we may stick our head up a little higher for God than they do, so they try to chop it off to bring us down because they feel guilty that they're not doing anything for the Lord. But here, I mean, people are going to come at us, and the principle for us here is let God deal with our enemies. Let God deal with these people. It's not Joseph's job to go try to kill Herod to protect his son. It wasn't Mary's job to try to hire an assassin to go take care of Herod the Great. They didn't get God's people together and say, we're gonna do a march, and we're gonna march, and we're gonna hold signs, and we're gonna picket. No, they let God deal with it. What did they do? They obeyed God and did what God told them to do, and God dealt with the problem. And we've got to let God handle people who come at us in our lives, because he's the judge. He's the good judge. He's the perfect judge. And he's the only one who is authorized to judge, not me. I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. It's not my job to assassinate anybody because they attack me. I got better things to do than to argue with other Christians or people who don't like me. I mean, like I said yesterday, their base of people who follow them is not very big, and it doesn't mean anything to Joe the plumber up on the corner here who needs to hear about Jesus. We've got to keep our eyes focused on the mission that God has given us and follow God's will for our lives and obey him and let him deal with all this. All we get to see here in God's word is that Herod died. That's it. But can I tell you, it wasn't pretty? And God does not take it lightly when people attack his kids. We see it all through his word. God defends. And God may not do the things that we would want him to do to attackers. And he may not do this to your attackers, the people who come after you. But it doesn't matter. The battle is the Lord's. We have to turn it over to him, leave it to God, put it in his hands, because he is God. And his ways are not our ways, and his thoughts are not our thoughts. They're much higher, and he knows what's best. So we need to let go of those attackers when they come at us and not try to defend ourselves. Let's let God, because he's much more capable of doing a good job. So let's let God deal with our enemies, and let's keep following him, and let's follow the mission that he's laid out for us in our lives. Get in God's Word, read it for yourself, and see what He has for you today. And until tomorrow, God bless you and have a great day.